Howdy y'all, washed up Destiny TikTok and Buildcrafter here to talk about theory crafting, making big moves. Tomorrow the final shape will officially be out, however over the past few months we've received news and sandbox information regarding the final shape. Now most people will just play with the new toys when they're out, but I'm not like a normal person. I like thinking about how I'm going to play with the toys before I get them and how I'm going to play with my toys in the best ways possible. With that being said, on screen right now will be timestamps to each specific part of my theory crafting. We'll be starting with the gear that we get from the Pale Heart, followed up by exotics and prismatic, and at the end we'll include the artifact. However, parts of the artifacts will be mentioned if it makes sense. Starting off with the Pale Heart weapons, we have to mention the origin trait and its importance. Dealer's Choice. Weapons kills grants super energy. Equipping more than one dealer choice weapon increases the amount of super energy gained. Now this can be an interesting set of weapons if they're strong for builds. If you can pair up weapons that can work with exotics that give free surges or grant additional energy on their own, something like a Mantle Battle Harmony comes to mind with the upcoming rework. This is very dependent on the weapon choice alongside the perk selection on those weapons. After we cover the weapons and my ideal roles, I'll mention how the artifacts will play into this. It should be mentioned that all the dealer choice weapons are craftable and can be farmed via the Pale Heart. Start with primary weapons, moving on to specials, and then heavies. Bold Endings is a stasis heavy burst hand cannon. If you're familiar with Warden's Law, then you'll know this hand cannon will be more of an ad clear version of Warden's Law rather than a DPS option for Lucky Pants. It has a ton of value as a stasis hand cannon due to it being the first that can be crafted. It also has Headstone in the first column, which can only be matched by Judgment from Prophecy. However, this isn't the only good perk in the column as we have Loose Change and Rapid Hit, which heavily improve the reload stat of this hand cannon archetype. In theory, if this weapon has a base mag of 16 and a size of 22 with a backup mag mod, then you'd want to invest into perks that make the weapon feel good when you go from enemy to enemy. You may want to invest into a scalar perk like Alloy Mag rather than a mag size increasing perk because you'll only get possibly up to 3 more bursts, but at that trade-off you'll have horrible reload speed. In the second column, it's a free-for-all for what you want to choose. Me personally, Desperate Measures, Dragonfly, and Demolitionist are the only perks that are worth looking at. While Golden Tricorn is the strongest damage perk here, it is the most inconvenient due to how Stasis lacks lethality in its base abilities where most of its damage comes from shatters. Desperate Measures can be triggered even if the weapon isn't drawn and can be refreshed as well. Dragonfly grants 5 reload speed when you enhance it, and does more damage and has more range than Firefly. Its only downside is it doesn't have the same reload benefits that Firefly does offer, so take that with a grain of salt. Demolitionist is good for ability focused builds, but it will not be good for a Verity's Route build, as mentioned before with Stasis lethality. No hesitations. It is a unique adaptive frame auto rifle known as a support frame. What sets it apart from other adaptives is its passive ability to heal allies, alongside increasing their damage outputs and granting them restoration on rapid healing. Now this primary is not like other primaries, it is not a hit scan, so you may want to take that in consideration when you're comparing it to the Summoner. In the first column there's 2 perks, there's Demolitionist and there's Psychic. Demolitionist is really good because it's the first energy slot auto rifle to have Demolitionist in the first column. And Psychic is really good because when you grant restoration to your allies via the healing of this auto rifle, it grants it to yourself as well. This can be very strong on subclasses that don't have innate healing, so take that into consideration. For third column, we have Incandescent, Circle Fight, and Desperate Measures. Incandescent is just a universally strong perk. Desperate Measures is easy to proc, and you don't need to match subclasses to use this. Now Circle of Life is really interesting. Don't know the exact values of Circle of Life, however, when you grant your allies the damage bonus from this auto rifle, it also applies to yourself. So as long as it's like a 20% buff, I would say it's pretty good and would pair well with Psychic. On to our first special weapon. The Call is a Brand rocket assisted sidearm. Now this is very good because this will be the first kinetic slot rocket assisted sidearm and it is craftable, unlike Indebted Kindness. Now you can get Lead from Gold on this alongside Desperate Measures and Hatchling. You could also get Slice as well, but I think Lead from Gold is going to be what most people are going to be chasing after. Lead from Gold, when enhanced, grants you 10% more special ammo than the non-enhanced version, and if you're running double special, you only get 5%, but that's still a strong bonus. Someday is a kinetic precision frame shotgun, and is the first one since Forsaken Dustrock's Blue. Now this style of shotgun is intended for PvP, however this is good for swaps if you don't hit crits. Now I won't recommend that you actually chase this weapon for swaps because the only other Vorpal weapon shotgun is Root-Toed Tail, and you would have to get that version of that shotgun before Season of the Witch, and so unless you have a time machine or you already have that rule, it's not really worth chasing, and it's already so niche that I wouldn't even recommend it. So I would just say skip out on the shotgun if you plan on using it in a day one scenario. I'm gonna brutally murder this name, but Axel Lucinia, I don't know if that's how it's pronounced at all, is the first legendary solar precision frame fusion rifle in Destiny 2 history, which is crazy because precision frame fusion rifles have been in the game since day one, where this fusion rifle is just the first of its kind for whatever reason. Now fusion rifles aren't really the best for DPS, however if you're using a Dragon's Breath or a Gallahorn, a fusion rifle is pretty good. Also in day one scenarios, if you can't really hit a crit of a boss and it's too hard to hit shotguns, fusion rifles tend to be pretty good. They have decent total damage, and you just want consistency rather than inconsistency, in my opinion. This fusion rifle can get reconstruction, which is just automatically good. You can also get demolitionist if you want to do a silly Song of Flame build. However, reconstruction is universally going to be good. It has controlled burst as well, which is just going to put it above Cartesian. Yeah, that's basically it. There are a few like ad clear rules you can put on, but honestly, I don't think many people are using fusions for ad clear. Next, we have Embraced Identity, is a Void Adaptive Frame Sniper, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is not going to be used at all, really. It's not the greatest. We already have Father Sin if you just want to proc Cascade Point with the Void weapon. This is just not that good of a sniper. You could make a funny Demolitionist build with a Verity's Brow Void Hunter for Prismatic if you're feeling a little bit silly, but outside of that, I don't really see a use for this for PvE. Next, we have our first heavy weapon, which is also the first aggressive frame machine gun the game has ever seen. It is a strand weapon as well. I cannot speak about its place in the meta, but I can recognize a good role when I see one. Demolitionist is an S tier perk on machine guns, and it excels at ad clear, because it is a 2-in-1 perk, which is ability regeneration and auto reload. Pairing this with a perk that wants you to spam your abilities is ideal, so like Desperate Measures, it's a first pick. However, recently Chris Proctor has made a statement talking about how machine guns and swords will be possibly the meta going into this next raid, so maybe you might want to get a reconstruction bait and switch role. Lastly, we have False Idols. False Idols is the first solar frame vortex sword that all classes can use. While vortex frames are not ideal for DPS, the sword can be interesting when combined with the artifact. Frontline Strikes and Bait and Switch is the most consistent combo you can do, but Incandescent and Chain Reaction could be a bit silly if there's like an encounter where you need to clear out a bunch of ads, and maybe you can just cause some ignitions by using Incandescent and Chain Reaction. So why do the dealer choice weapons matter? Well, in the artifact, there is a specific mod where it's called Winning Canned. While using weapons with dealer's choice origin trait, combatant precision funnel blows are rapidly defeating combatants, causes them to explode. Deal with solar damage to nearby enemies. Having several equipped weapons from the dealer's choice origin trait increase the effects of the explosion. So basically this sounds like Firefly. Sounds like a free Firefly and all the weapons. A combo that I can see working pretty well would probably have to be the rocket sidearm with the support fusion, or the support auto, and then the fusion rifle, one of those, and then with the machine gun or the sword. I think that's probably going to be the best. You can either surge match double solar, or surge match double void, or double strand. I think that's probably going to be the best set of weapons if you're going to use all three. Starting off, we have Kvastov. It is returning, and it seems like a solid auto rifle all around. It is based around just hitting targets and spawning a bullet that ricochets between them. It comes with a perk that allows you to instantly trigger this special round on orb pickup alongside shoot to loot, so there's synergy there. This can be a solid choice for high density areas as well as for scaling for Grandmaster content. Assassin's auto are insanely high and will probably make the weapon feel great. I'm excited to check out this weapon, but I don't know if it'll be in my inventory for day one. We have Necrochasm, which is getting a buff. It is getting, instead of Outlaw, you're getting this perk called One for Thrall, which basically says, hey, if you get a explosion kill and you hit like multiple thralls, now your weapon does 35% more damage, and it already has an RPM increase, so it's kind of tough to beat that out. In addition to that, we have Cerberus getting a buff, which might just make the weapon better for dealing with majors, which I don't think any of these weapons are going to be struggling with red bars, so majors is we're going to mainly be wanting to use these autos for. So we'll see. Hopefully it outperforms, but I could see it being a bit tricky. Red Death Reform is returning, and it has been reformed. While it hasn't been a one-to-one copy of its original self from Destiny 1, it is much better in every way. Bungie took Heal Clip, turned it into an exotic perk, then he took a Mechanic Strict Sleeves exotic perk, and they added to Red Death. Then they added in a Redacted to the Catalyst, and this weapon will be a healing jack of all trades. Sword Warlocks will benefit the most with Song of Flame and Starfire Protocol alongside Speaker's Sight, and other classes can get a ton of survivability that they don't really have. For example, Strand subclasses now that Woven Mail's duration has been nerfed from 10 seconds to 5 on orb pickup. Steel Hunt is a golden gun that turned into a sniper. This is very competitive with Izzy, even if it's not better. Some players might debate on that. However, I think it's going to be way better if you're a Celestial Nighthawk Hunter. It also frees up the kinetic swap, so if you like using weapons like Fatebringer, Midnight Coup, Breakneck, or maybe this new redacted weapon that we're getting, or as well as an updated redacted, this weapon has a built-in synergy with Celestial Nighthawk, so if you're a Hunter main, you might want to pick up this weapon as soon as possible. I believe it comes from a quest after the campaign, but I could be wrong on that. Lastly, we have the Heavy Trace Rifle. It's a heavy trace rifle. It doesn't look too impressive, I'm gonna be completely honest. I'm not really gonna talk about it too much. It could be good on Song of Flame and well Cenotaph users, but it's meant to like combat shields. I don't know how great this weapon will be. So I think we're just gonna move on from it. Exotic armor. Titans have Wishing Ignorance and then Hazardous Proportions. These will be the first two exotic armor pieces that we'll talk about, and at a base level, I think these are going to be the best. The Gloves, the Wishing Ignorance, is meant to replace Synthesized for Strand Titan with Banner of War when used in a team setting. It also enables Full-Edge Storm to be competitive as an aspect option as well. Not meta, but can be very fun to run in a group of Banner of War Titans for ranged ad clear. Very memey. Hazardous Proportions will be a must-have exotic for Rocket DPS Titans. When you get precision hits or land weapon funnel blows, you'll gain 1 stack of Exodus rockets. Upon using a class ability, you release all your rockets and gain rocket damage bonus for 10 seconds. Depending on the amount of rockets that are hit, at max stats do gain a 35% bonus to rockets and rocket sidearms. It is currently unknown if this stacks with Radiance or Lumina. However, it does buff Wolfpack rounds for legendary rockets and ignitions for Dragon's Breath, making it a best swap for Titan rocket DPS. Exotic armor for hunters is a Balance of Power and Gifted Conviction. And I'm gonna be completely honest, I don't really care for either of these. Balance of Power is a buff to Threat Spectre, which just isn't impressive in PvE. While the extra threat will be nice, it'll be inferior to Swarmers in every way. Gifted Conviction is interesting, however. When you use Tempest Strike or Ascension, you spawn 3 mini skip grenades that inflict your jolts, and when you're near a target, you gain 25% damage resist if they are jolts hit, which can be nice on Arc, as Arc already has a built-in fragment that does this, so you'll have 2 stacking 25% DR buffs. So this might be nice to use on Prismatic, since Prismatic will also have this buff. And it doesn't mean you need to use Tempest Strike or Ascension. You could just use a Volt Shot weapon or use a Gathering Storm near a boss and just stand by them. May not be the best exotic, but it also is not the worst. Finally, we have Warlocks. Speaker Sights and, I don't know this one, Medoia. At a base level, they're not too powerful, but when you introduce build crafting, I believe these Warlock exotics can be top tier. The Strand melee one, it covers anti-barrier and unstoppable, and it also gives your Arcane Needle the ability to spam itself more often. I think combined with Prismatic or Strand will really show the power of this, but until we have it in game, I don't think most people understand the strength of it. Speaker Sight copies your healing grenades effects and creates orbs every few seconds when you heal your allies with any source. This can be very strong, especially with Red Death. So, Prismatic. Let's talk about light and dark debuffs, buffs, all the above. So if you're familiar with light and dark verbs, none of this will be new to you. However, Prismatic will have access to nearly every verb that is currently in the game. On screen, we'll see every source of every verb and how to get it on Prismatic. Fun fact, Blind is not available on Prismatic, which is not like it really matters too much, but it's interesting. It's interesting that Blind, of all things, is impossible to get on Prismatic at the moment. Well, outside of exterior forces like an exotic or maybe an artifact mod. As of right now, there's no way to get Blind. So that is it for the buffs and debuffs. Now let's talk about Transcendence. Transcendence is the ultimate goal of Prismatic. You want to be Transcendent to receive the following benefits. Instantly refund 2 grenade and melee charges, replace your grenade with a Transcendent grenade, half light, half dark. a 5% stacking weapon damage bonus, massively increase melee and grenade energy regeneration, as well as damage resist. Melee hits recharge grenade energy, and grenade hits recharge melee. Kills while in this state also extends its duration, let that be known. So whether you want Transcend to be available during DPS or you just wanted to have it when you're on the go, you can see a lot of benefits with that 5% stacking damage bonus. And if your grenade is not vital for DPS, you might as well have it. Or if your Transcendent grenade improves your DPS, then you might as well be in Transcendent. It'll be 100% worth it. So how do you enter Transcendence efficiently? Well, you can use a kinetic primary to fill out both light and dark side of the bars, but that's a little bit boring. You could also have an even spread of light and dark abilities, or you could use fragments that make up for the lack of dark and light energy. You can also use fragments to gain additional dark and light energy, such as Devotion, Grace, Honor, and Sacrifice. Speaking of fragments and aspects, on screen you can see all the aspects and fragments, and I'm just going to talk about a few that I find interesting. Sacrifice and Courage, those two being the ones I'm mainly wanting to look after first. Courage, it could be massive if it is a big damage buff, but we'll have to wait and see. In terms of the aspects and fragments, or the aspects, I think Warlock's sort of got the short end of the stick. Lightning Surge isn't too good and is mainly going to be used for PvP. If that was Arc Souls, I think that would have been massive for the class. Bleak Watchers on their own aren't really that strong. Ice Fairy Bolts really carry them. Weaver's Call, it's cool. It's cool, right? Like it's there, I guess. It's getting a buff, so it might be a little bit better, but I don't know. I don't think it'll be. Finally, we have the artifact. So for anti-champion weapons, we have Anti-Barrier Pulse, Submachine Gun, Unstoppable Sidearm or Scout, and Overload Hand Cannon. Out of these options, in the first column, I think SMG Hand Cannon and Sidearm are going to be the best. The second column, I'll be picking up Elemental Charge or Overcharge Armory with Winning Can, which we discussed earlier. In column 3, we have two options that really steal the show for me, which is going to be Overload Sword and Press the Advantage. Press the Advantage is when you break a combatant's shield, grant increased weapon stability, handling, and reload speed, and swords get increased guard resist. I mean, I think this is just free, it's natural in your gameplay. In column 4, if you have Prismatic, I think you should be using Void Imagery, Radiance Orbs, and Galvic Armor. These are just free passive benefits for you get Overshield, you get free Radiant, you get free damage resistance for doing different things. In the final column, you have 3 options. It is Expanding Abyss, Shield Crush, and Transference. Expanding Abyss is when you cause void damage sources to deal increased damage against weakened targets. Shield Crush grants 2 different effects depending on what effects are applied to you. While you have Love and Mail, Frost Armor, or Void Overshield, your melee recharges faster and deals increased damage. When you have Radiance Amplified, your grenade recharges faster and it deals increased damage. And on top of that, there's Transference, which is you get increased grenade and melee damage during Transcendence. In Weapon Final Blows while Transcendent, refund light and dark energy after Transcendence ends. That is going to be it for today's video. Tomorrow's video will be a list of builds that I've put together in preparation for the final shape. So it'll be out day 1, same time as today. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow.